morning, Michelle Arnott here at Diamond Rock Glass Studio. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm very excited about continuing a series that I started last week where I introduce a friend of mine. Her name is Judy McMillan. She draws patterns, so I'm introducing one of her patterns each week. You can go to Judy's website and find all of her beautiful patterns, and that is glassartdesignllc.com, where you can find all of her patterns. So this week I would like to introduce one of her patterns. It's so fun. This one is called At the Beach. Super appropriate for right now. We have beautiful weather in Tomahawk, and I would love to be at the beach right now, but this is just so fun. And each week I'm going to introduce one of her patterns, and I'm also going to introduce a topic. So last week when I introduced the blue pansy, I started to talk about oxidation. There's a lot to say about oxidation. I just scratched the surface of a little bit about oxidation, but I'll touch on that again in future videos. But this week I'm going to talk about how I framed this irregular shaped piece with hobby cane. And you can find this. I will be introducing this pattern and the glass that I'm using as a kit on my website, diamondrockglassstudio.com. And please bear with me. I'm just getting over a little cold, so my voice is a little bit funny, but we'll get through this together. So let's start this week's pattern at the beach and talk about hobby cane and how to frame this piece with that. So here is Judy's At the Beach pattern. So in each kit you will get 8 pages. Each copy is 4 pages and you need 2 copies total. So this is going to be our template. I cut on the dotted lines and taped the pattern together, and then I put a piece of contact paper, a clear contact paper over it, and I stuck this one to my Home Soap board, and then this one I taped the pattern together, and then I laminated both sides, and this one I'm going to cut all the pieces apart to be my pattern pieces. So I got all the pattern pieces cut apart and laid back over my laminated pattern, and here is Judy's. She uses colored pencil to color in her patterns, so she expresses on her website to feel free to use your own colors. So feel free to do that if you're ordering from Judy. If you're ordering a kit from me, of course, you'll have to use the colors that I've picked out. So I have picked out 6 different colors here that I'm going to show you next. So for the clouds, I have this Wismock. It's like a wispy white and clear. For the sky, I have like this sky blue cathedral glass. For the pail and shovel or scoop, I've got this Kokomo green. For the flip-flop, I've got this artisan glass. It's like an orangey yellow. And for the sand, I have this Wismock. It's like a light amber opal color. And then for the toes, I had a hard time finding this color. It's actually called Flesh, and it is by Yakagani. So this is more my kind of skin tone, but if you order a kit from me and you want a darker skin tone for the toes, just let me know, because I can find any color that you want for the skin tone. So these are the colors that I have picked out. I am going to put them all upside down and then start placing my pattern pieces on the according glass. So now that I have all of my pattern pieces on the correct glass, I'm going to carefully arrange all my pieces. Once I turn the glass upside down, I'm also going to turn my pattern pieces upside down. I'm going to trace each piece and start cutting. So I have everything foiled and I'm ready to tack solder. So I'm going to do the tack soldering over the pattern, and then I'll move it off of the pattern and do all my soldering lines. I really appreciate all the comments that I get. Please feel free to comment and let me know what are some topics that you would like me to discuss. There's so many topics. I actually made a list of different topics. I have close to 100 topics, so I don't think I'll be running out of material. There's so many mysteries in stained glass. It kind of made me smile last week. I think I read how somebody was wondering why I say soldering and not soldering. Here in the United States, I guess that's just the way we say it. It does look like it should be pronounced soldering. So I don't have an answer for that. So now I'm ready to do to put the hobby came around this piece to add some strength and to kind of finish it off. So I did want to point out, normally at this point I do not wash my piece. However, I did, simply because as I was putting it together, this piece right here, the little toe, somehow was sticking out a little bit, and I didn't like that. I wanted it to be smooth here. So they were all fitting up, but somehow it was sticking out, and I didn't like that. So I did grind it, and I grinded or ground right over the foil. So now I need to add a new piece of foil right in here, which I'm going to do now. So I did need to wash my piece really good so this foil will stick. So now that I have this new piece of foil on here, notice that I did tin all the way around the top and back on the sides. I didn't worry about the sides, but the top and bottom edges I did go ahead and tin. So I'm going to do that with this new piece of foil here. Okay, so now we're ready to frame our piece with the hobby cane. So this is what we're using today. This is 5/64 hobby lead or hobby cane. This also comes in 1/8 inch, 3/16 inch, and 1/4 inch. Any of them would work fine. I have this one handy today, so this is what we're going to be using. And this is the narrowest of the four that I just listed. And I did measure the circumference around this piece is about 45 inches. So I did already measure out 45 inches, and you can just use scissors. Lead is very soft and pliable, so you can just use scissors to cut that off. So now we have our 45 inches of hobby cane. It should be just a little bit extra to fit around this piece, and the extra we can just easily cut off, but I'd rather have too much than too little. So the first thing that we want to do is stretch this. See how it's kind of bendy, and we want a really smooth piece of hobby cane. So I'm going to show you how to use a vise and do that. So here's the vise that I use. This is a pretty simple device. It just screws into the edge of my workbench here. It's got a spring here. This part opens up. You slide the end of the hobby cane in there, and it really holds onto it. So you can just use a pair of grozing pliers to pull on it, and it'll really stretch it. And this is what it looks like new in the package. These sell for, I think, about $10 on my website, but they come in real handy. So I gently pulled, and you can actually feel it stretch, and it just makes this all really smooth. But you can see on the end here, it did make some marks, so I'm going to want to cut that off. So that's another reason why it's important to make this a little bit bigger than you want it, just in case for something like this. So So now I have my stretched hobby came, and remember I did wash my piece because I needed to add a little piece of foil. Normally at this point I still have flux on my piece, it's not washed. However, since I did wash it, I will have to add flux. First of all, at every place where I have a seam, and I'm going to start and stop at a seam. On this piece, it doesn't really matter where the seam is. Usually you kind of want to start and stop at the least conspicuous spot, but it doesn't really matter. If you have an irregular shaped piece that has an inside corner, sometimes it's good to start there. But for this piece, it's pretty smooth all the way around. So I'm just going to pick a spot. I'll pick right here. So I'm first going to attach it at all the seams. My iron is set right now at 360 Celsius, which is about 680 Fahrenheit. Normally, if and the reason for that is that this is lead. It melts very easily, so we want to keep the temperature a little bit lower. You'll find if you've never used this before, it takes just a little bit of practice, but you learn really quickly that this will melt, so you don't want to be in one area for too long, and you want your iron a little bit lower than normal. So like I said, I have this at about 360, and again, that's about 680 Fahrenheit. So let's go ahead and start dropping solder, and we do have to flux each spot that we're going to be soldering. I got all the seams tacked. So now what I want to do, I could turn it over and do all the seams in the back, which I will eventually be doing. But I want to just show you one side, and then how you do the back side is pretty much exactly the same. You're going to get all your seams, and then you're going to go ahead and run some flux all the way around, get it on this lead and on your piece, because now we are going to also attach this foil to the lead. And again, you have to be really careful. This lead will melt if you stay on it for too long, or if your iron is too hot. So you have to have a nice balance of speed and temperature. So let's go ahead and run this all the way around our piece. we got all of the front done. I'm going to flip it over and do the back, and then I'm going to put hooks on it. I'll put hooks on it on the back, and I do want to point out where you want to put the hooks. You want to put the hooks on a seam. You do not want to put the hooks, for example, here and here, or here and here. You want it on a seam. So here, 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 where any of these seams are, and you want to get it down into that seam. Otherwise, eventually that foil can detach from the glass, and it will sag. Your piece will sag, and your foil and lead will be detached from your glass piece. So I've seen it happen, so be careful with that. So I'm going to do the back. I'm going to put the hooks on, probably on the back here and here, and then I'll wash it all and patina it, and then I should be done. So I got the back side done, and I put the hooks on. I just want to show you where I put these hooks. They're right in the seam, so they're nice and strong. If I were to put it somewhere, like I said, the weight of the glass and your piece can make that foil and your lead detach from the glass. And I just realized I have a piece here that I have to fix. This is a bad design because there's no place on this for the hooks to go. So I'm fixing this up for someone. See how the weight of the glass made this detach from here? So since there's really no spot to put these hooks, what I'm going to do is put the hooks down here in a seam. So I just really wanted to quickly show you where I did now attach these hooks on this dragonfly. So that's right on a seam. You can do that. It doesn't need to be right on the top. It's still going to hang really nicely. Hope you can see that okay. And then I'll just have to clean up the edges of this dragonfly. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new to stained glass or you need a refresher, please feel free to go back to my very first video. It's how to make a sun catcher, and it's 55 minutes long. And I really detail every step of the stained glass process, from picking out your pattern to picking out your glass, how to cut, how to grind, foil, solder, and finally finish your piece. All of my videos can be found on YouTube under Michelle Arnott, or on my website, diamondrockglassstudio.com. And you can also find my shop on my website as well. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you next time.